are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked on Cowboys. Locked on Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. And joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can follow him on Twitter at McCoolBCB. You can also listen to him on the Best Coast Boys podcast. Landon, what's going on, sir?
Happy Friday. We're glad to be here. And I love Fridays before division games. It's just like the tension and the stress and all the chatter. It's and you know the S talking that goes on all over Twitter is fun too. So I'm looking forward to this.
Did you see some of the bulletin board material the Giants are pulling out for this one? They have a video of Troy Aikman saying that the Giants aren't in the same league as Dallas, just playing on a loop over and over again. So nothing the Cowboys said, just something that Troy Aikman said in a broadcast. So
cool bulletin board material. What is this? 1996? Really super useful stuff, Joe Judge.
I thought it was funny. All right,
funny.
Let's get into the matchups for this game. I do want to start with some injuries though. So Cowboys have basically the same injury report they've had the last couple of weeks. No Dorrance Armstrong, no Michael Gallup, maybe no Lyle Collins. Probably no Lyle Collins, right?
We'll see. I guess we're going to find out here in a couple hours maybe, but you know, look, should we get into that at all? We haven't really discussed that, but I mean, maybe just briefly just mention that.
So Lyle Collins is going to court. It seems more about getting some money back rather than trying to play quicker. I just have a feeling that even if, let's say, he gets an injunction or injuncture this afternoon, he hasn't practiced at all. It's probably more about getting him ready for next week than it is this week, but I guess they could leave the door open for Collins to play. I don't know, Landon. What do you think?
I mean, he's been in the building, which is one thing. So that helps. It's not like he's coming back from home.
But he hasn't practiced in like a month.
That's true. Absolutely. So I would say probably not.
Probably not. But
seem likely.
But if he gets this, he could play next week, right? Like he could actually practice and be ready for next week. And maybe that's the more important thing, right?
Man, we have not learned any of our lessons from the Ezekiel Elliott situation, have we?
No, we have. We have. It's just I just don't care anymore. I just am assuming these guys aren't playing.
So here's the thing. I imagine that if it's anything like Zeke, yes, probably he plays in New England. But ultimately, what it does is that it kicks the can on the suspension down the road because likely, again, guys, the NFL does what it wants, and legally. That has been, fully established and backed up by the legal industry.
I did say, though, for some reason in this case, if he gets this injuncture, it's likely not to have any impact. Or not, the NFL is not likely to do anything until the offseason, until like March or something. So it seems like he'd be able to play. But again, we're talking 2 games here, right? Like he's already served 3 games of the suspension. Yeah. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, what the difference was I think, when Zeke did his, like, he kept on kicking a 4 game if it was. It was
6
games left.
6 games.
No, yeah. But I think if I remember correctly, like he play 2 of the games and then did he serve 2 of the games and then he get an injunction?
No, it was all 6 at one time. It wasn't all 6 at once. It was supposed to start at the beginning of the season and it ended up being like 7 weeks into the year before he actually started to serve the suspension. So
I just remember that it ended up being a worse situation for the
Cowboys.
Because
it was right dab in the middle of the season. Yep.
Exactly. So they probably could have not afforded.
On top of that, you had Zeke basically, I remember playing against Kansas City after getting it on Saturday, right? So he wasn't around the team at all, did not practice at all. And I mean, it's just a completely different situation between Zeke and Collins, right?
Yeah.
So
except for the sense that the NFL is likely to win this one eventually too. So
there you go. Injuries, really quickly. That's what we were getting to.
Yeah.
Carlos Watkins does look like he's going to be back for this game. That's nice to have him. Still no Dorrance Armstrong, no Michael Gallup. For the Giants, they're pretty beat up. We actually haven't talked about this at all, but it doesn't look like Jabril Peppers is going to play, and that's actually a bigger loss for them than I think a lot of people think because he's played well. That forces Xavier McKinney into the starting lineup. We'll see about Andrew Thomas. I heard some beat reporters today. He did not look great in practice. He's dealing with an ankle injury. No Sterling Shepard, no Darius Slayton. So they're beat up, but so are the Cowboys. I just thought that was interesting off the top. So any comments on those guys before we move on?
Yeah, and actually maybe I need some clarification. So Slayton and Shepard didn't practice?
No, they have not practiced all week. It sounds like they're going to be ruled out later today, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, those are huge hits for a team that doesn't have a lot of talent to start with. I think, they saw something, and we'll get into the actual matchup part, but I think they saw something in Kadarius Toney. Mm-hmm. So maybe there would have been a natural inclination to kind of give him some increased reps there. But
Shepard's the loss. That's because he's the reliable guy across the middle of the field and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because you think Toney can kind of do some of the things that Slayton needs, does for you as far as stretching the field, and frankly, I mean, I'm sure you watch the Saints game, it looks like Barkley can do some of that stuff if they need him to. If they need to line him out wide. So yeah, I would say the biggest loss, if it's a loss, and even if he plays, would be Andrew Thomas, to be honest, because he had been playing really good football this year. And if he's injured, they suddenly have two very vulnerable tackles.
Yeah, and the answer would be, I'm not quite sure. It's a chance that it's Isaiah Wilson who would replace him, who they just signed. Matthew Parrott is really only a right tackle. They've had a lot of injuries on the interior of their offensive line with Nick Gates and Shane Lemieux. Billy Price, I believe, is going to start at center for them. If they don't have Andrew Thomas, this is a very compromised offensive line, so keep that in mind.
I mean, if they have Billy Price, it's a very compromised offensive line. So.
Yes, that's exactly true. Cowboys' interior pressure needs to win in this game, and we're going to get to that in just a second. But before we do, I want to tell you guys about Bet Online. You know Bet Online. It's the #1 spot for all your pro and college football action this season. With a new updated site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests, BetOnline continues to be the #1 source for everything football. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Don't forget to use promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From football, basketball, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. Bet Online, where the game starts. All right, let's talk about the Cowboys' defense against this Giants offense, because I think this Giants offense has been a little bit improved this season. It looks like Daniel Jones is definitely playing better football. Saquon Barkley looks healthy. We talked about Andrew Thomas. He's been playing better this year. What are your thoughts about how the Cowboys match up against the Giants?
I've got bad news for the Cowboys fans. Daniel Jones is not as bad as we thought he was.
No, he's not. No.
I went back, having gone back and actually studied him for this year. I mean, I've watched Giants games casually, but kind of having gone back to watch him, he's played much better football than he has at any point in his career. They're letting him throw the ball down the field, which is helpful. I think that they have something in the idea of a running attack that is going to pull your safeties up, and then they'll take shots down the field.
Yes.
The problem with all that is that they are not a great play action team. And Daniel Jones is not a great play action thrower. So they can't really tie together as well as they would like to their run game and their pass game the way it should. Having said that, just the manipulation of the safeties, the choice that the defenses make is a difficult one, because Barkley is a guy that can hurt you on the ground. And Daniel Jones is a guy who can hurt you down the field. I think where they struggle is in everything in between. The intermediate to short routes, Daniel Jones is not great. So the Cowboys have to choose their path here, right? I think the key for the Cowboys defense against the Giants offense to kind of put this game away is for the Cowboys offense to make the Giants offense one-dimensional by scoring points early. And because otherwise, the only way this Giants offense hangs around with the Cowboys offense is if it's a close game and they're allowed to remain balanced and play with our safeties and take advantage of whatever position they decide to take. So for the Cowboys, I think getting stops early, being strong and getting off the field quickly, especially early in the game, is going to be paramount to kind of controlling the game, getting the ball back to your offense so that they can score points, which again will make Daniel Jones a passer, which I don't think that Daniel Jones, the passer, especially against a too high front or fronts where the too high back end, especially back ends where he's going to have to dink and dunk, as you know, who was it then the Giants suggested that the Cowboys offense is a dink and dunk offense.
So Dory Jackson.
Dory Jackson.
Yeah.
I think you that's dictated
awareness
by the
has never
defenses.
been his strong suit. So
well, I think we're going to find out that pretty quickly in this game. I think that's the way to kind of put them in a position where they won't easily be able to get out of, and you could do that early in the game and then kind of dictate the terms from there. They're not great at stopping the run, so once you get there, you can put your foot on their throat and just basically bleed out the game.
Yeah, Giants, I actually expect them to move the ball up and down the field on Dallas. I really do. They've got a lot of weapons. Daniel Jones is good as a runner too. Like he runs some of these read options, right? And he can pull it and gain 40 yards. So where the Giants have struggled not only this year, but over the last couple of years is in the red zone. I believe they're the 32nd ranked red zone offense right now. They kick way too many short field goals. So that's really going to be the story of this game. Can the Cowboys hold them to field goals or hold them to long fourth down chances? Because if they can, they're going to win this game. If not, the Giants are going to hang around, and that's exactly what you don't want to have happen if you're the Cowboys. So go ahead.
And it makes sense if you look at their strengths and weaknesses, right? Like they have a really, really weak offensive line, especially in the interior. They've got a quarterback who can throw the ball down the field, but he's not great at putting the ball into tight windows, which is obviously what happens when you get into the compressed space of the red zone. So the red zone presents, not opportunities, presents problems that the Giants don't have a lot of good solutions for. And what they've ended up doing is much like Carolina. They've relied a lot on Daniel Jones's feet to try to get the ball in the end zone. So the Cowboys need to find a way. And that's why I would imagine that you see a similar game from Micah Parsons snap count wise that you did to Carolina, right? Where you're going to see some pass rush, but you're definitely going to see some linebacker too to keep Daniel Jones honest, because Daniel Jones is a good athlete. Micah Parsons, better athlete.
Yeah, I'm really curious also to see how the Giants use Saquon Barkley in the passing game, because saw him last week against the Saints, like run some vertical routes.
Just ran 9 right past the guy. It was just ridiculous.
I want to make sure Jalen's not covering him down. I forgot. I'm just burned into my brain. You're going to make sure the linebackers aren't covering Barkley one-on-one, because that's a mismatch. So keep an eye on that. All right, let's switch it to the other side of the ball. The Cowboys offense against the Giants defense. This should be a big mismatch. Now, the Giants have talent. Like, they were a pretty decent defense last year. They look pretty decent against the Saints here in week 4, but where do you think the Cowboys can expose them?
Well, we don't have Jameis Winston playing quarterback for us. So
that helps.
And that helps. Yeah. So I think, there's lots of places to take advantage of here. I mean, Peppers, especially, Peppers, even if he was healthy, is exploitable. But now that he's not, they're playing Xavier McKinney.
He's probably their second best defensive back when he's healthy, though. That's why it's a big loss.
Yeah, I mean, and Bradbury has not been playing he's not been playing up to his level this year, it seems like. I think that there's lots of places to exploit here for the Cowboys. I mean, look, the defensive interior for the Giants or wherever they're playing Lawrence and Williams, that's a strength. There's no doubt about it. But honestly, if they're going to play Williams on the edge, in early downs against Terrence Steele, I think that's a pretty decent matchup. I mean, because honestly, I think Terrence Steele, the one thing he can do is bowl people over. He's big and strong. Maybe he can hold up on Williams a little bit more. I think he struggles more with the speed guys. So it'll be more interesting when we see, Carter, Ojulari out there. That's going to be an interesting matchup. But honestly, I think the Cowboys have big advantages on the outside with their skill receivers. They've got super big advantage on the inside with their linebackers, which are just a mess.
Well, especially after Blake Martinez went down. That's why I'm going to be really curious to see what Dallas does in terms of like their packages, because I actually think in this game, like trying to just make sure that Tay Crowder and Reggie Ragland are on the field as much as possible is probably the best strategy, right? So we might see a lot of 2 tight end sets. We might see a lot of Connor McGovern in this game, because I think the Cowboys believe they can big boy football the Giants in this one. I really do.
Well, and I think they can, and I think ultimately what the Cowboys can do to take advantage of this is, hey, the Giants spent all week watching that Carolina Panthers tape, and it must have scared. I mean, it scared the crap out of me, and I'm rooting for this team. Like the variety and the efficiency that they're able to run the football. They use so many different schemes and so many different personnels that honestly, it's too bad McEwen's not in this game, because honestly, I would come out in 13 personnel and then spread them out.
Yeah.
And see what they do.
I think what we're going to see a lot of is the little tight end screens that we saw to Dalton Schultz and to Jarwin, because I just think Dallas is going to want to see, okay, Ragland, can you make tackles in space? Can you run sideline to sideline? I know we talked to Patricia Traina for Locked On Giants, and she said Tay Crowder is a huge weakness for it, like that. You just can't have Tay Crowder in coverage. So that's, I got to believe this is another big tight end game for the Cowboys.
Yeah, and likely, similar if they wanted to take advantage of any slot receiver play, because I think that they can operate in the middle of that defense. They're down a defender, and they may not have a guy who's going to be able to kind of handle that slot as well as I think Peppers is usually the guy who's dropping down into that nickel spot. So
they use Logan Ryan sometimes in the slot as well, but
he's going to have to play some safety. So correct. I mean, that's the issue. So I think that the Cowboys have lots of different ways to win this. And again, I would say another thing that they can do is they can win on the edge. I don't know if wide zone is necessarily the play that I would run, because likely what's going to happen is that we'll see a lot of tight mint fronts, right? Yeah. Where they have like three big guys lined up over our three interior guys. And that's kind of a wide zone killer because it just destroys backside blocks. But I think if you wanted to run some power, you wanted to kind of fold guys down into those interior guys and kick a guy out on the outside, bring Williams around or bring Martin around on the outside. I don't see any of these guys being willing to tackle Zeke or Pollard. So I think there are lots of different ways for the Cowboys to move the football against this defense. This defense is not played like the defense that we expected based on last year.
I will also say this is a game in which I expect CeeDee Lamb to have a big game, because we did over the last 2 weeks, not big numbers, but in that game against the Giants last year, the Giants just didn't have anybody that could cover him, and that's when Dak played. So I think a lot of play action shots down the middle of the field to CeeDee Lamb early on downs seems like it's going to be the right recipe for success for the Cowboys. So I wanted to get into some predictions and some overall thoughts about this game, Landon. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys about Built Bar. You guys know Built Bar. It's the best tasting protein bar. It's hard to even explain it. Real chocolate, amazing flavors. It's just a great combination of low calories, high protein, and low sugar with no crazy additives. Best of all, they taste fantastic. Go to BuiltBar.com right now and use promo code LOCK15 to get 15% off your next box at BuiltBar.com. All right, Landon, it's our favorite time of the show. Prediction time. I picked against the Cowboys 4 straight weeks now. It's kind of a tradition. Do you want me to start with this one?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and start with this one?
I'm picking the Cowboys. And I know it's probably bad luck.
No, you just ruined it. Now we're going
It's probably bad luck. I was going to pick the Giants, but I think there's a lot going Dallas's favor in this game. Just on top of the injuries and all that kind of stuff. It's Dak Prescott's revenge game, right? Like, this is a year since the injury. He's at home against the team that knocked him out for the season. I think he's going to play really well. I also have been hearing some whispers behind the scenes that the coaching staff, the actual quote that I got was, Kellen Moore has an axe to grind. They feel like Logan Ryan's tackle last year was a little bit of a cheap shot. You shouldn't be trying to tackle a quarterback that way. I don't think Kellen Moore and Jason Garrett are all that close. I feel like Kellen Moore maybe felt like he was pulled in a little bit too much under Jason Garrett. I think they want to embarrass the Giants this week. I think they want to score 40 points at home. They want Prescott to throw 5 touchdowns. I think this game is going to be close for a while. I just see another third quarter, kind of like what we saw last week, where it's 17-14 going into the third quarter, and all of a sudden now it's 31-14 with 3 minutes left. Like I envision that type of game happening. So I'm picking the Cowboys here. I'll say 34-24.
Yeah, it's funny. I on the WFAA hit that I did this morning, I picked them to win 35-28, I think.
Okay.
I envision one of two paths, right? The one that you just described, the Carolina Panther game, where it's tight, and then the third quarter, the Cowboys exploded, it put the game out of reach, pretty much immediately to start the second half. And then the other one that I see is the Cowboys kind of tapping into what you just talked about, coming out and absolutely obliterating the Giants up front. Up front being the front part of the game.
Yeah.
Like getting up to a big lead early, and then making the Giants one-dimensional and running the football to kind of kill it. And then, I think that if that's the case, you're going to see ugly Daniel Jones, because Daniel Jones being forced into a comeback situation. I understand what happened last week versus the Saints, and that's, one way that things can happen. But I also think that the Cowboys have the ability to put points up in a way that I don't think the Saints are currently constructed to do.
A couple things. Go ahead, finish your thought.
No, that was it. I was just going to say, I think those are the two paths, basically.
So I would say that Jason Garrett and Daniel Jones throughout their careers have been really good in divisional games. Like Daniel Jones's passer rating in division games is like 20 points higher than outside of it. And we know how good Jason Garrett's always been in divisional games. Like he knows those teams really, really well. So I would be a little bit cautious there. So don't be surprised if this game is close. Dallas just has an offense that's so good. And if the Cowboys really are going to be, let's consider them just a really good NFC contender. These are the games you have to dominate it. Not squeak by. You have to dominate. I look at like Buffalo. The last couple of weeks, they played some bad teams, the Dolphins and the Texans, but they didn't let those teams hang around. They shut them both out and just completely wiped the floor with them. If the Cowboys want to be viewed as an elite team, you've got to dominate bad opponents. And I think they do. I do think they win this game, Landon. I think it's close for a while, and they find a way to pull away by 2 scores at the end.
I 100% agree. I think that's, good teams find a way to win big, and I think point differential is actually a pretty good indicator of how good your team is.
Yeah,
and I think that
I'd say some games, I think sometimes you learn more about your team when they're playing a bad team rather than a good team, right? Because do the Cowboys come out flat and just think they can walk over these guys, or do they put the pedal to the metal and just say, "Hey, we're gonna win by 40 points from the very start"? I would like to see that urgency from the Cowboys in this game.
Old Cowboys teams with this level of talent disparity on their side probably go into this game and win this game by a field goal.
Yes.
I would like to see this Cowboys team, which seemingly is doing all those things that those previous Cowboys teams don't do, like start strong and, kill teams at the end and put the foot on the throat. I would like to see this team do that to the Giants. I think that you're right. Your report makes a ton of sense that these guys are pissed at the way that this came out. And what better way to motivate your guys to really attack a Giants team that, doesn't necessarily on the outside pose a huge threat to you than to tie it back to what happened last year and trying to go have something to prove. So,
and the other thing about
I
this
look for a big
is,
win.
If you win this game, the Giants are now sitting at 1-4, and Landon, here are the next four games: Rams, Panthers, Chiefs, Bucks. You basically can end their season if you win this game. Like you really can, and you're now have a 2-0 record in the division. You're sitting high. Win this game, and everything is ahead of you. It's such a big game for Dallas. I do think they're going to get it done. I really do.
Absolutely. I think the Cowboys have way more to lose here.
Yes.
I guess is the best way to put it. So that makes them dangerous, to be honest.
Giants, they are better than what their record says they are. They are one offsides penalty, in that Washington game from being 2-2. They were close against Atlanta. So I think they're an improved team, but they're still, to use an Aikman quote, they're still not in the same league as Dallas. Let's just hope it plays out that way on Sunday. That is it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, you can download and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us on YouTube. You can check out the show on Twitter at Locked On Cowboys. You can follow Landon at McCool BCB. I'm at Marcus _Mosher. Enjoy the game. We'll see you guys back here on Sunday night to review it all.